There we go.
There you are.
Oh my gosh, that was like the most intense session I think I've ever had trying to get on.
I know.
Sorry about
It's so
that.
crazy sometimes. I mean, I had a call last week, same thing. They couldn't get on. They finally had to go on their phone and do it. And, that was the only
I
way.
have my phone right here, was thinking of doing that too. Yeah, kind of my backup.
So how are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm fabulous. So tell me a little bit about yourself. You're a business coach. What did you do before you started coaching? What's your background?
So background in business is actually in the food industry. So I started my first bakery in Dhaka, Bangladesh in 2010. And
Wow.
I did decorated cakes and cupcakes for the expat community. And it was an incredible experience. Hated the country. No offense to anybody who's from there, but really challenging place to live. Loved the business though. And ever since then, I was just kind of hooked. And I always knew that was something that was a part of me. And it never really went away, right? It just kind of sticks around. And so I tried launching a healthy bakery in North Carolina in 2014. Didn't go so well. I had a lot of success, which was kind of a bad thing too in Bangladesh. It was so easy that I didn't really have to learn a lot of marketing skills and techniques, right? I didn't need to know business per se, because I had random emails and messages and phone calls wanting cakes, right? I just became the cake lady. And I came back to the States expecting that same thing to happen, and it didn't, right?
Wow.
So it was quite an experience, kind of learning the ins and outs of online marketing, and how do you position yourself, and how do you even hone in on your ideal client and what they're looking for? How do you actually explain the benefits? I was really afraid to sell because I couldn't give away my product for free. So it was there were a lot of mindset issues that I had to overcome kind of in between there. And so after kind of going through some of the steps and processes, not really, and realizing the investment that it was going to take both financially and with my time to actually get something like that up and running here in the US, I decided that really wasn't what I wanted. I really wanted a laptop business that I could run from Costa Rica or Thailand or anywhere to get me out of the Northeast in the winter.
Yep.
And that's what got me into marketing online, and how I could really use that to help others too, right? It's a struggle when your specialization is in one thing, and now you have to go and learn this whole other world, and it can be so overwhelming. So just being able to relate to other people, I think, in that experience has really helped me.
Mm-hmm. And just a curiosity question: how'd you end up in Bangladesh? Of all the places in the world, why Bangladesh?
I get asked that all the time. So, the economy was bad. I figured I might as well just go to a third world country. And my parents are foreign service. And so my mom was stationed there at the time. And so they were there with the embassy. And so I went over originally to work in the embassy. And when I got into the country, they closed the position. And so I was basically jobless there. So I had all my basic needs covered. It wasn't a huge deal, but it forced me into a new a new way of looking at things and at work, because I had never dreamt of or even desired running my own business. Something that I thought, well, maybe one day I'll open a bakery just because I like to bake, but it would be like my retirement job, right? It wouldn't be something I actually made money from at 25 years old. So yeah, and it just took off. So yeah. Yeah,
and it's interesting how it worked in Bangladesh, but then you come over here and the economy is completely different, and the way that people relate are different. And so it is like learning a whole new skill, of how people actually, there's such a tight knit community over there, where here it's like loyalty doesn't last as long as it does. Right.
Yeah. And competition is so much different over here. And then if it's a new product, trying to educate people on what is this new product, this doesn't make sense. So it's definitely, there was a huge learning curve. I spent 7 months and, probably $10,000 trying to make something work, and it wouldn't. And it was a big stepping stone for me though, to admit and say, okay, this isn't working. I need to figure out something else and determine what that looked like. And so it actually meant going and finding a different job, paying off my student loans, re-educating myself, taking classes and courses online, looking at what I could do to be better in this space, and that was hard to push pause, but sometimes it's necessary. And it's what you do when you push pause. I think that's important, that you don't just leave it there and sit, that you actually do something with your time to be productive and to be working on it, even if it's on the back end.
Yeah, one of my things I talk about a lot is reinvention. You constantly have to reinvent yourself, and sounds like that's exactly what you had to do. And now you get to today where you're coaching people how to do that, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been an incredible experience. And even now I'm still learning things about what I like to do, what I don't like to do, how I want to continue to shape the experience, and what that looks like. And then also from a client perspective, what's the best way for them to learn and for them to absorb the information and the knowledge, and, what's even from, going from a 9-month package down to like 3 months and having a 1 and a 3-month option. How has that accelerated people's kind of end results and the positive effects of what the coaching actually does for them.
So let's talk a little bit about the coaching. I mean, when you get a new client, obviously you have some kind of intake. What are you looking to help them achieve? What are some of the goals or deliverables that you provide?
Yeah, so I work primarily with female entrepreneurs. A lot of them come to me because they have either recently started a business within the last 1 to 2 years, or they are looking to start one in the coming year. And their first goal is really to hit 10K per month. That's a big goal, whether it's in the next 6 months or the next 12 months. Hitting this goal of $10,000 per month that they're bringing in is kind of this overarching goal for many people. And so what I start off with is looking at the numbers and actually work backwards, right? So if your goal is $10,000, but you are charging $50 an hour, you need to work and bill 50 hours a week in order to hit your goal. So a lot of times it's initially in that conversation, it just goes into what are you offering? What are you selling? And how are you packaging it? And how are you providing it? Because when you're charging by the hour, and even though $50 is a really great hourly rate, it's not going to get them to that end goal anytime soon, right? And they're going to be so overworked and overwhelmed and frustrated. So then we go into what are going to be some of those more passive streams, as well as high-end one-on-one or small group, semi-private coaching that they can do and really share their experience and their skills with somebody and get them really great results. So a lot of times it's in defining what that offer looks like.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't look at that. I mean, I have something similar that I say there's 2,000 hours in a year. So, in working hours, you got to consider that 40 hours a week is going to be normal. I don't care if you're working for yourself or working for somebody else. If you can put in 40 hours of work, that's a lot of work. And so, you sit and look at that. So you got 2,000. So if you're charging $50 an hour on 2,000, that means you're going to make, roughly, $100,000. But, how many of us can work 40 hours? Because you've got to market, you've got to do your books, you've got to do all the other things in business. You got to get out and network. So realistically, you can only work 1,000 hours. And so I love what you're saying. I mean, it's spot on. So you mostly can work 1,000 hours guaranteed, and that's about it. So you're really going to make $50,000 charging $50 an hour. And so I mean, it's great. Yeah. So excellent point. So what kind of things do you do to help them get beyond that? Because I know that money is a huge mindset with a lot of people. They, how could I possibly be worth $100 an hour or $50 an hour?
Right.
When the last job, they were only paying me $23.50. So how do I become 4 or 5 times more valuable, just by working on my own? Right.
Definitely. And it's huge. Right. And I laugh because I used to think, I don't have money blocks. Like, I don't need that. And I totally do. Right. Whether you realize it or not. And so I think that's always the first step, is kind of having that aha moment and realizing, oh shit, this is real. And so then the next step is to start to look at what you offer and create a package to where it's not based on the hours of work that you put in, but it's based on an end result. So if I can get my clients from making $2,000 a month to now making $10,000 a month within 2 months, then I have significantly increased that investment initially to the return and the payout over time, right? So that way, month 3 through 6, they're making at least $10,000 all of those months. So if they were to spend even if they spent 10,000 with me for 1 month, which is not my price, but if you put 10,000 in and you get $60,000 out, that's a huge increase, right? And
Right.
I always say that working with a coach should be like getting the advance to go card in Monopoly. You should be able to pull that card and be so excited that you get to pass by, not have to pay for things and expenses that you don't need, pass through everything, learn along the way, and you collect your $200 and you start almost right where you started from, depending on where you pull the card, right? So how can working with you help save them all of that time and the hassle and the growing pains, the expenses of not knowing how to structure or set up a sales funnel or a webinar? How can you bypass all of that for them and coach them through it, right? So then now they're going to get to that end result even quicker. And that, I think, is the core value of a really good coach, is somebody who can take you, push you forward, and help you to get to your goals faster. So if you took a 9 or a 12-month coaching program, and now you were to say, okay, it's going to be the same cost. So maybe you charge $1,000 a month for 12 months. So now take that and just start by cutting it in half, right? So instead of working with somebody for 12 months, now you're going to double up and give them twice the results in half the time. So take it and create a 6-month package, and now each month is $2,000. Or you could still bill them monthly, right? You could still just have it, you could be on a monthly payment plan and just pay this off later. But if you can get clients results faster, then they're more likely to stick with you longer, and you have increased their confidence, their motivation, and their belief in you, as well as in themselves, right? And that's part of being a coach, is doing your job well, right? So a lot of times it's how can my clients get their clients those results even faster? And a lot of times that means charging the same amount, but decreasing the time that you work together and working together more intensely. So it's 1 month or it's 3 months, and it's really focused. So maybe it's a weekend VIP training session to where it's a Saturday and a Sunday, or it could be weekdays, but you get 5 or 6 days each day, and then you get maybe one follow-up call each week thereafter for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But you're giving a lot of value, and you're helping your clients to walk away, like walk out of a weekend and say, okay, I have my business plan and my sales funnels mapped out, or I have my website and my logo design and this and that. I have my branding down. I have all the images I need. Whatever your specialization is, give it to them in one big chunk and charge them the same rate that you would if you were to work with them for 6 months, but just give them those results sooner. That's kind of my philosophy.
Gotcha. So how do you deal with people who are technophobes, the people that the technology just kind of, they look at it and they just stare at, at a blank screen going, what do I do next? Because that's a big chunk of it. I mean, if people are going to be able to do this, they've got to understand things like Blab. You said webinars, setting up a website, doing content development, all those kind of things. So how do you help people get past that?
So that's one thing that I work with them through. So there are a few things that we will do together, right? So I will give them a kind of a webinar mini course, like a crash course, if you will, and I will walk them through one program. I like Webinar Ninja, so I will walk them through. They also have training videos and say, okay, this is actually how you're going to set it up. This is how we're going to structure your webinar. This is how much time you should spend in the beginning, in the middle teaching, and then at the end pitching your product or your offer, and then giving them swipe copy. So here are some email templates that you can use, trying to give them a lot of things that are already done for you, but you just need to kind of tweak and make your own. And then if they really are not that tech savvy, they might not be the right client for me. Or they might need a project manager or a VA or somebody to take on that role altogether. So it really depends. For some people, I'm not the best fit, right? And that's okay. I know that out the gate. I know that I don't want to be a project manager. I'm not the best at that. And I don't want to do it, is really what it comes down to. And so if I have somebody that I can refer out now, which I have 2 project managers that I work with, and I will refer them if that's needed. But it really depends on the client and what they feel their strengths and weaknesses are. I do think that everybody should have an understanding of how things work, even if they do have a VA or a project manager doing it. But I do understand that that's a big hurdle to overcome. And sometimes you do need to outsource that. And if you don't have the money to outsource it, then you need to reevaluate, right? So you can't pay for somebody else to do it, do you need to step up and do it yourself? At what point does that become more of a hassle than it's worth? So it's really just working with the client and where they are, like you said.
Mm-hmm. So do you primarily work with people who are doing coaching style businesses, or do you work with brick and mortar people, or what kind of, give kind of the range of people that you work with?
Sure. So yeah, it is more online service-based businesses, coaches, consultants, strategists, either in the health field or could be health, like nutrition coaching, fitness, mindset, sales. Those are kind of the big ones. So yeah.
So that's kind of your niche. Your niche is in more in the health field. Gotcha. Health and fitness. Awesome.
Health, yeah. And then it really just like it's hard to find the right balance with people who, if they want to create a product, my style and what I teach, if they don't want to do one-on-ones or small group coaching, I'm probably not the right person to help, right? Because I'm going to be telling them to do something they don't want to do. And that's not the right fit.
Right. Yeah. And so give an example of, because we all have these, you've got that client that sounds so awesome at the beginning and you get midway through the coaching and all of a sudden it just falls apart. Have any of those?
Yeah, and unfortunately, yes, I think we've all probably been there a little bit. So really it's hard to see everything from the beginning. And so one thing that I do, if it's a 1 month program, then it's only 1 month and there's not a lot of room or time to like fall out. If it's 3 months or 6 months, then I always have a clause that stipulates that if they want to cancel after the first month, then they can. So it's not a refund, but if you feel like this really isn't working for you, if this isn't jiving, if you thought you were getting VA, and you're not, I can see how you'd be upset, right? So I try to be very clear with what my end is, as well as what I expect from them. And if for any reason there are any issues, then we will cancel it. If it gets to be month 2 out of 3, then at that point, I really just try to work with them and figure out what is in their best interest, right? So I don't want to make them feel like, oh, well, I'm paying this person for something and I don't even like her. That's not the goal. So that's kind of on a case-by-case basis of, okay, so do we need to outsource this, get this task done for you, and then we will stop the consulting. And so that did happen once. And that's just something that comes through communication and really trying to be very clear up front in what I'm going to help them do and what I expect them to be doing too, right? I will try and send notes and I'll record our videos, but I am not your personal note taker. So if we're on a call, don't tell me, oh, will you write that down? Because no, I won't, right? Take some responsibility. Like you're putting in some good money, some good effort and time, and you need to be able to own it, right? So, and that's really a lot of what I try to do is help to empower people, give them that confidence, and then work through those mindset issues, the fears, the blocks, things like that come up no matter what, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's hard sometimes because it's just hard to recognize. I mean, I've had a couple of clients where, it was really simple stuff. We just needed them to kind of change the way they did their website. And then they come back every week and nothing was changed. And then they want to learn more. And it's like, but we can't go further until you get this done. And then, it's just sometimes they're, they just don't see it or just don't have the energy or just, forget about it and stuff like that. So that's always a challenge. I mean, majority of people are, pretty straightforward, get the job done, do what they need to do, and then move forward. And that's one of the things about coaching that I think is so tough because every person has a slightly different work ethic and personality style. And, I call it a ceiling. There's a ceiling of what they could take in at one time. I could imagine, some of your customers with that 1 month intensive are probably just like pulling their hair out at times because they got to do so much in a short period of time, right?
Yeah, it's not so much, right? It's not so much doing as much as it is thinking, like it's mentally training, right? To come out of a weekend like that where you've just spent 12 hours focused so much on your business and really narrowing in on that ideal client and what do they want and what do I have to offer, and that internal battle, it's draining. It definitely is. And that's why there's those follow-up calls then for the next several weeks, is making sure that people stay on track, that they understand it, that the overall goals are there. And then if there is a training session that's needed, at the end of the month, and then I'll sometimes surprise people and do something like that, just because I want to make sure that they get the value out. But I find that when you charge higher rates, they've got more skin in the game, right? They're willing to do the work, and they feel like, I need to get my money out of this. I need to make it worth it. And that's really kind of another mindset of like being able to invest in yourself and knowing that, okay, there's a lot on the line. I got to make this work.
Right. So what's your take on helping people find their perfect client? I've heard so many different people talk about that, and that's like the holy grail of a business. It's like finding if you can find your ideal client and you can give them what they want, you almost never have to work another day in your life to find a client. So what's your take on it? How do you help people do that?
Right. So a lot of times, I mean, this can be tricky. There's a lot of brainstorming and talking. And so I will often ask at the beginning before we start to outline who your ideal client is, because a lot of times I'll see where there's like miscommunications, where things don't line up. And a lot of times people are way too broad. So I was working with one gentleman actually, and he is a graphic designer and videographer, and he's amazing, got great skills. But he said that his ideal clients were small and medium-sized businesses, and that was it. Just all of them, right? Like just small and medium-sized businesses. Yeah. That's it. That's my client. So that doesn't give me anything to work with. So there's a balance between, and we got into this later, and the issue was he had created a product previously that was so specific. There really were only like 5 buyers. Like it was that specific. He was trying to sell something to the government, essentially, and it didn't fly. So he got really specific before, but he niched down way too far to where now he kind of swung the opposite way and was really afraid of going down deeper. So it's really about finding that balance. But a lot of times it's what is your ideal client struggling with? What are the problems that they are dealing with? And what are they looking for as kind of a solution? And what's kind of that end goal? So a lot of times in the nutrition field, people will say, I want to lose weight. Okay, so how much weight is one question. And then why do they want to lose weight? Because somebody who wants to lose weight because she's in her mid to late 20s and wants to get married and find a husband is going to be a lot different than somebody who's just had kids and maybe has been married for 10 or 12 years and just wants more energy versus somebody who wants to get their sexy back, right? There are a variety of different ways that you can turn on and off an audience based on those keywords, and that's going to be what we focus on, is what are they after? What is that end goal? And always going deeper. So a lot of times with business owners and other coaches, they want to make an impact. They have this desire, this want to help, but they also have a want to make money. And there is a lot of imbalance and inconsistency in the messaging in terms of, well, you have to have a business that you love and that you're passionate about before you can start making money. And so some of these kind of blocks and myths that are out there that they don't go hand in hand. You need both, right? If you want to be in business, then you need to make money. And so getting over that fear and that kind of hesitation can be really big. And I find it more with women. And I don't know if that's just more because that's who I work with, but I feel like that tends to be more of an issue of sales, selling, money. It's a harder thing for women to work on.
I'll tell you right now, it's hard for men too. It's no different. It's just, but it's just it's a mindset thing. I mean, you brought exactly that, and I've learned through one of the things I always say is every doctor needs a doctor, every mentor needs a mentor, and every coach needs a coach. It's like I don't care what business you're in, you need to have some kind of coach or somebody that's going to help you see things from a different perspective. And another point that you brought up too that I thought was really interesting is that, it used to be, especially in my business, if they breathed and had a wallet, they were a customer, and it took a while for me to figure out that, okay, not only do I have, one ideal customer, like you mentioned with the person that wants to lose weight, is a lot of times you have multiple avatars and you have to focus on them as different, almost like different businesses in a sense. So, because like you said, the lady who wants to lose weight in her 20s to get married, the one who just had kids, the one that has health problems and needs to do it. I mean, the emotional message to each one of those is vastly different. So that's a really great point and a great analogy. Yep. So talk about some of
Right.
your success stories. I mean, talk about somebody who's really kind of blossomed through your system.
So there's one woman, and she has done so well. We are actually working on launching a group program for her right now, and she has just come leaps and bounds in terms of focusing. Instead of focusing on 20 things, really pulling that all back. Really just putting down some of those balls she was trying to juggle. Really looking at what's necessary, what's critical, keeping that focus streamlined, not getting sidetracked. And she's very innovative and creative, and I love her energy and her spirit, but we really had to pull her back and get really focused and finish something, and to do it really well, and not just finish it, but then also to market it and put it out there and to give it time. And I think that was one thing that it was kind of an issue, was how much time is too much. Where's the line? And so not wanting to jump from tactic to tactic, but to stick with something long term, to start a sales funnel and to run it, for 3 weeks straight, and to actually follow it through, to start Facebook ads and to really do those really well, knowing the audience, targeting the right people. That's a lot of what the ads, the value in the ads comes from, that targeting aspect. So really being able to set those up for her. So now when she launches again next in the fall, then she's going to be set up for even more success. But she's just come so much further in terms of really crafting her skill. She does a great job interacting with people and communicating like live. And so we've introduced Blab and Periscope, doing webinars and things like that she can really get a full feel for, and she's gonna kill it. So I'm really excited for her. And she's a nutrition coach, and I think she's a great philosophy and something that she really believes in wholeheartedly. It's not just worked for her, it's worked for many other women, and is very much a lifestyle, but she deals with not just the food, but also the kind of the emotional and mental pieces that go with it too, and kind of dealing in that realm, because that's probably, I don't know, at least half the battle, if not more. So
yep, absolutely. So how about you start talking about some new you talk about some new technologies like Blab and Periscope, and I don't know if you're on Meerkat or any Snapchat. I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in all these different tools. Which ones are you embracing? Which ones are you using in your business, and how are they working for you?
So I love Blab actually better than Periscope, because I love being able to bring on other people, right? I like being able to do this like interview face-to-face kind of contact, to bring in audience members. I feel like it's so much more engaging. That's why I really prefer Blab over the others. I'm not on Meerkat. I think I signed up for an account, but I really haven't used it, but maybe once to test it out. So, but I'm also Facebook and Facebook groups are a lot of where my audience is. And really, I think you should have two core social media platforms, and you might disagree with me here, but especially when you're starting out, you can't necessarily be everywhere, and you can't be everything to everyone, and that's okay. Like, you're going to have your strengths and your weaknesses, and so if you really want to do video and you want to communicate through video versus a blog versus writing, you need to consider that as well as what your audience wants, because I don't have time to read your 100-page free ebook on branding. Like, that's a death sentence. So I don't want it, don't give it to me. But if you give me a training session or a video series or something like that, then I'll actually watch it and pay attention, and I'll soak up the information. And actually what would make me even happier is because I could do something else at the same time, right? So it's really about knowing your audience and what they want, and then finding those couple of areas where you can really focus. Because I think at the end of the day, you're going to find that out of everywhere that you are online, you're probably going to get your best results from from a small amount of that. Like 80% of your clients will come from 20% of your marketing efforts. So it's really going to be defining and narrowing in on what efforts are those. And that just is a little test, right? It's just trial and error. You can make your best judgment, and then when you see something working, you hit it hard. And when you want to try something, get one or two right before you start to branch out and go elsewhere, is always my philosophy. Start small, start very targeted, very focused, and then start to branch out once you feel like you got things under your belt. A lot of times we just take on way too much, way too quickly. And that leads to overwhelm, and people get discouraged. And it happened to myself, right? It's not like I'm void of this. It totally happens to me all the time. So trying to avoid that shiny object syndrome. I'm not on Snapchat. I have roommates who are, which is pretty funny because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure I'm like too old for that. But it's one thing where like I've chosen not to get onto that yet, and we'll see down the road if that is something for me. But right now my clients are not like younger generation millennials, right? So I don't know that that's actually the right place for me to be. I have a very personable style and not very like professional and corporate sounding. I don't know that LinkedIn is the right style for me. It might be because maybe I'm a breath of fresh air. I don't know. But that has not been where I found the right type of people that I want to work with. So that's kind of how I do it. And that's what I suggest others, how I kind of coach others through finding their space. Yeah. What's your philosophy though? What would be your take? Because I'm sure you have some different ideas.
Yeah, no, my take is to try as many of them as you can, just so you can see what kind of response you're getting from the audience. So I don't say that you spend a lot of time on them, but you're going to, some people are going to find a much better response, say, by posting to Pulse on LinkedIn than they would trying to say they're doing a blog or something like that and then putting that up on Facebook. There's a much bigger response there if that's the way that they feel they want to communicate and their audience is consuming things, because video is fabulous and I love it. I mean, I was a videographer. I was trying to say video photographer. I did it for years. I mean, I worked in a corporate AT&T for years, and I love video, and that's why I love Blab. And the same thing that you said is this is such a great way to meet people, to have conversations. It's just like we're sitting across the table, but where are you, by the way? Because I'm in Chicago.
Northern Virginia, just outside
Northern
DC.
Virginia. Right. So, I mean, we're, probably 800, 900 miles apart, but we're sitting here having a conversation. So, but getting video distributed can be a challenge sometimes. I mean, you do have Facebook Live now, which is only on iOS. Producing video, I mean, just shooting, getting good lighting and doing things. I mean, that's a challenge as well. And then editing and doing things that need to be done with it. So a lot of times, some people just kind of they don't want to spend the time, the energy to get their messages out that way. They think it's just easier to do a podcast or talk their stuff into a blog. So the first thing I say is get comfortable with your communication style and try a handful of different things to see what your audiences are responding to. And try them on all the platforms. I mean, try pinning some pins to Pinterest. Try putting stuff on Google Plus, and a lot of clients get an incredible amount of traction on Google Plus because it's indexed by Google, and they start to see a lot of traction back to their website and start seeing some customers come in from that. So it really is try one thing, the way you want to communicate, get it out to as many platforms as you possibly can, and then start to measure, because measurement is one of the things that I spend a lot of time on. I'm a numbers junkie. I'm a QuickBooks junkie. I drive my accountant crazy. I spend a lot of time on Google Analytics and looking at all the different channels and seeing, what's working. And I know from my experience, I get the most results from my blogging on Facebook, even though I still put it on LinkedIn and Twitter and all those things. But, it's just, you never know. So I always like people to experiment and then figure out what's working for them, then laser focus, like you said, and kind of dig into that. So that's my philosophy on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So what kind of things have you been working on lately on top of, just coaching? Are you building products yourself? Are you, doing a lot of webinars? How are you marketing your business?
Yeah, so right now the focus is through Facebook groups and Facebook ads, and then through webinars and creating my sales system essentially through that. And so really working on refining my intensive program. That way it's not too much information, like you said. It's not an overload that people, I'm giving them everything that they need to be competent and capable, but that it's not too much extra, right? And that can be like the hard line to find of how much is too much. And so it's really going to be understanding where people are at right now. And if there are two different levels of clients, that I have two separate like intensive programs in a sense, so that people can be with people who are around the same level. That way it's not overwhelming somebody or like boring somebody else. So really focusing on crafting that, what is, that product really look like, and then getting it out. And that's been primarily through webinars and ads and groups on Facebook. And then outside of that, then there's thoughts of creating a membership site or a membership group that's more of a monthly kind of paid group. And I haven't quite figured out exactly what I want that to be just yet. So I've decided not to, just kind of take my time, see what's really needed, what's wanted. There are a lot of great membership options out there. So I need to figure out how I want to be different. How do I want to make this? Is it more just a live Q&A? If it's a full-on membership site, what am I teaching? How often do I plan to be in there? Is it actually profitable? At what point is my break even? How many members do I need to get in there to make it worth it? Some of those things that I need to figure out, because I'm not a best-selling novelist. I'm not going to get 100, or 1,000 people to pay $100 just to be in a Facebook group with me, like some people can, which would be awesome. But I have to be realistic with where I'm at right now. So it's been the one-on-one and semi-private coaching that have been the focus, and really getting extremely clear and focused on what needs I can solve.
So when you say semi-private, is that like a group coaching program that you do?
Yes. So semi-private I consider less than 5. So 5 or fewer. And then small group would be more like your 10 to 15 range. Probably no more than 20. But if it's going to be a semi-private, then I still want to give everyone that kind of private coaching. I want to be able to look at everybody's information and what they're working on, and that creates a lot of work for me. So if it's a 1 month semi-private, so it's a small group, that creates a lot of work for me within one weekend, right? Because I'm, going through and critiquing and helping everyone outside of the class time as well. So, but I think that can be really valuable, and it's just another way to help make it affordable for people too, to know that they can still get the same great content and information that they would if they did one-on-one, but now it's just you get the feedback now of other people, and hopefully it sparks some other ideas listening to somebody else's conversations. So
it sounds like a combination of a hybrid of mastermind and individual coaching is what it sounds like to me. Is that kind of what it is? Yeah,
it kind of is. Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, because I know a lot of people do very, intensive masterminds, quarterly, monthly, whatever it is. Other people do, the one-on-one coaching. I know some people that have gold group coaching, which is, where you have as many as 15 people, like I said, that could be in it. And, like anything else, half of them show up most of the time. So
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So are you doing Blabs now, or do you have your own Blab show, or? Because that's how we met, was on a Blab guest exchange.
So we were. And I kind of fell off, and we stopped doing them. And so then I just got back on and decided I was going to start doing them myself. So
cool.
I was doing them with a few other ladies, and we were doing marketing truth bombs, and really just trying to do bust the myths out there. And that was kind of the goal. And we found that it was, I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was more, I think, fun and engaging for me. I don't think the other ladies maybe found it as valuable, or it maybe didn't drive enough clients that they were looking for, something along those lines. But I thought it was just a blast. I always loved those. So this is something that Blab is coming back around and going to start doing more of those, and then trying to figure out if I want to structure, which I think I do. I like the idea of having kind of a core topic, or doing an interview, or something to that effect, to where people can learn something from it, right? It's not just like a debate.
Right. No. And I like this kind of format too. The thing I love about Blab is it's so multidimensional. So the example is when this is done, they automatically send you the Blab in both audio format and video format. I take that immediately, throw it up on YouTube, so now I've got some YouTube content sitting out there, and I can also take the audio and turn it into a podcast at the same time. If I want, I can get it transcribed. I haven't done that yet. So I get a YouTube video feed, I get a second podcast, and it's also a way to meet great people like yourself, who potentially become guests on my podcast, which is my main podcast is the Bacon Podcast. That's the one down there. And that's the one where I do a monocast and then guest interviews every single week on very specific topics. Everything from, I did a one on Blab, one on Periscope, probably do one on Snapchat, talk about different technologies and find experts who want to give their expertise in that niche. And I was listening yesterday I'm a podcast junkie. I love listening to other people's podcasts
me too.
as well.
Yeah.
So I was listening to an interview with Joel Comm. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's a great guy. I met him at a handful of conferences. And he was just talking about all the benefits of Blab and why he likes it. And, just reinforced to me just how good of a platform this is. Minus the glitches of trying to get you in. And, when I first logged on, I had to stop it because it wouldn't let me back in. I did something and all of a sudden I went away and I was echoing and then come back the second time and it's perfect. So it's a little glitchy, but, I know that they're working on it and they're trying to, help things. Like the new thing that happened today, which didn't happen last week, is a screen came up that had to let me accept you in a different way than it did before to get you to come on. And so I don't know if that was part of the reason why it was glitching.
Yeah, maybe.
It's just so hard to say, but but that's part of, being in this business. There's always new things to learn. There's always new things to try. And I started this show, Blab with Bacon. I did a blog talk radio show for a year and a half with a guest host, and it was called BLT, Business Life Transitions. Okay.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah. And my co-host, Jan Marino, was a transitions coach, and that's what she did is, she helped people transition because a lot of people in their 40s and 50s are finding out they have to get a consultant's license, and then they hire people like you to figure it out. So that's what the whole show was about. But unfortunately, Jan passed away from brain tumor at Christmas, so I decided in her honor to just continue on with this format. And just try to, continue the thing on. So, but it's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to get information out there. I'm loving it. I just think it's an awesome tool.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think your personality comes out the best, right? And so in order to build that trust and to like somebody, because I'll work with you. I'll justify working with you, right? When I like you, because I want to support you too, right? And if you can solve my problems at the same time, that's no brainer, right? And that's the whole point of making it so easy that people want to work with you. And yeah, that's probably the biggest piece is just making it easy for people to like you and to want to work with you.
Right. Yeah. Well, I talk a lot in my book. I talk a lot about know, like, and trust, and I think this is a tool that really helps people to get to that place a little faster. It's when they see you talking, they hear you speak. Then you become more of a personality to them on social media, in your Facebook group. And, and now we've got a connection so that, if I see you doing things, I can promote you, you can promote me. It's a great way. It's a relationship building tool. And that's why I think it's going to be so hot as time goes on, especially in this, the benefit of Blab over Periscope is a one-to-many. So it's very much like a blog. It's very much like a podcast where, you're broadcasting. And the only way you're ever going to get feedback or any comments or anything like that is when people, have to go physically someplace to do it. They'll have to comment, they'll have to like it on iTunes, they'll have to comment on your website, whatever it is. Where I've seen some Blabs where you get immediate feedback, get some great questions. I'm kind of, semi-disappointed we didn't get more people on today, but that's the nature of Blab. Sometimes you get people on and they ask questions.
It's Monday morning, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah. So some people jump on, some people don't. Some people, especially when the glitches happen, they show up and then they leave, and, it's the nature of the beast. But I find it to be an awesome tool. So totally anything agree. Anything you want to close with or talk about, how people can get a hold of you, talk about your programs, anything you want to say?
I would say, hold on.
Sure.
Okay. My internet connection here might go off in a minute, so sorry about that. But
not a problem.
But yeah, it's been sketchy. Like I said, we've had some tech issues. So I guess kind of final parting thoughts is really don't be afraid to get specific in who you're attracting, specific in what you do and what you're providing. Because a lot of people are looking to solve one problem. They're looking for somebody to help them with their website, somebody to help them become a better speaker, to get more paid speaking gigs, or somebody to help them lose 10 pounds after having a baby. Like, they are looking for something in particular, and you have to get specific in the way that you communicate with them and how you position yourself in order to be seen as the saving grace, as the best option for them. And that's really what it's about. It's connecting on that emotional level, understanding their needs and wants, and being able to provide that solution. And
I think her internet connection went down. I think we just lost her on that one thing. All right. Well, Jillian, hopefully we'll be able to contact you through Facebook, and that may be the best way to get a hold of Jillian, because she didn't give a chance to give her website or anything like that. So anyways, I just wanted to start off saying that this is a show that's sponsored by both the Bacon Coach and Bacon Podcast, and those are my two things. So if you want to learn more about myself, maybe jump on the show. I'm always looking for Blab guests. So you can hit up, let me put this in the chat box. It's K-A-Y, at b2b-im.com, b2b-im.com. If you're interested in being a guest, you can contact her, or you can go on Facebook, and there is a Facebook group called the Blab Guest Exchange. Jump in there, and you can post your information. I'll be posting. I'm looking for more guests in there, and that's how I met Jillian. So again, I hope you enjoyed this, and look forward to talking to you same bat time, same bat station next week, barring, of course, any technical difficulties. So thanks for joining us, guys. Have a great week.